You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. Whether it's for food, fuel, drinks, or snacks, about half of the U.S. population shops at a convenience store every day. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
So you've been thinking about that new car, you've been researching that new car, you go buy that new car, you get it home, you wash it, you do everything you're supposed to do, but you've never even wondered what powers that new car. You don't even check to see what you're putting in that new car, but you do love it. That's what we're going to talk about today. What do you need to know when you're actually going to a fuel station and putting into your car? How important is it? Let's talk about that. Welcome to Convenience Matters. This is Donovan Woods from the Fuels Institute at NACS. I'm here with my co-host.
This is John Eichberger, also with the Fuels Institute at NACS. And Donovan, I'm excited about this subject today.
I am so excited I can't even get it out of my mouth in the right way there,
Clearly.
John. So it's so live, so real. But no, we have two guests here who are also very affiliated with the Fuels Institute. One is Rebecca Monroe. She is from General Motors. And the other is Jolynn Parsons from the Center for Quality Assurance. Ladies, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I mentioned two different companies. And when I think of you guys as synonymous. You guys are always together. But everyone doesn't know what that relationship is in terms of your companies, what they actually do. Why are those two companies together? General Motors, Center for Quality Assurance. Rebecca, what's the synergy there?
So the Center for Quality Assurance is the company that we have hired to manage the Top Tier program. The Top Tier program is owned by General Motors because someone has to own the trademark, but we do run it as a consortium because we want all the automotive companies that are part of it to have the input to the standard. And so it's best if we have a third party that runs that for us. So it gives us some separation from who owns the actual trademark. And so the Center for Quality Assurance is our administrator.
So, Jolynn, what is Top Tier?
Top Tier is actually a performance standard, and the standard was developed, created, and supported by 11 OEMs that are now part of the program. It's a standard that is higher than what's the minimum required by regulation, and these vehicle manufacturers have developed the performance necessary to keep their engines clean. It's based on detergent additives,
Gotcha.
but keep their engines clean and minimize or eliminate deposits on injectors.
So this program rolled out when? 2005, right? Something like that?
2004, 5,
2004? Okay, so I'm going to flash back. So I was
Okay.
lobbying for NACS back then. And I'm going to give you the initial reaction from the convenience retail industry, which, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I was the one kind of championing it. And you guys can give me the counter argument, okay? So retailers look at this, go, okay, here's the OEMs. We didn't have a good relationship back then. Coming out saying, we need to change the fuel coming out of the nozzle because we need cleaner fuel for our engines. And our next step that we said was because we screwed up and did something wrong with our engine, so fix the fuel to fix our engines.
Yeah, so, that's
Quick response.
that is a good question because that is a response that some people may have. And that's really slightly inaccurate.
Slightly. I think it's very inaccurate, but
So-
I can admit that now.
So now what's happened was in 1997, the EPA released a standard for the lowest concentration of additive required for gasoline. And what happened was the detergent levels dropped really low. And on some engines, that amount of detergency acts like liquid soap on your hands. So if you have a little bit on your hands, it'll actually attract more dirt. But if you have enough, it'll penetrate the dirt and wash it away. And we realized that we were having issues in engines at that time when this was released. And so we started working with the other automotive companies, and some of the fuel marketers were right there with us. We tried to change regulation, we tried to change the ASTM standards, and we were unsuccessful. So what we did is we decided to partner with those who wanted and supported what we were doing. And we grew from having 4 OEMs and a few oil companies to now having 50% of the stations in the US and also 11 OEMs.
Now, there was an article. I'm going to read this to you, and I'm just going to evergreen a little bit, not as I shouldn't do this, but I have to. It was back in April 2019, and it's from a reputable source in terms of looking out for everyone, I should say. AAA says this. They said, is top-tier gasoline worth the price? The short answer, Yes. Why should a consumer read an article like this and actually pay attention more as to where they're getting their gas, as to if this is important for their car?
Right. I think they really should pay attention. One thing about that article, it really did get a wide audience base and reached a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And AAA even shared with us their servers went down, our inquiries went through the roof. It was crazy.
For AAA, huh?
For AAA.
All right.
But your car is like probably the second highest investment you make.
I thought you were going to say one of the family, because I think that's how me and John feel about our cars. But
It's a family?
Yes, it's part of the family. It's part of our families.
Part of our
Yes.
family. Mine have names and
See?
personalities.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes, my daughters do that. But really, you keep your engines cleaner, removes the deposits. I mean, it's worth that extra small amount and to really take care of it the long haul over the whole, the entire ownership period and on to the next. And I mean, without getting into sort of gas stations and what's on the sign and the pricing, I live in a town where actually the brand, it seems like the brand is the biggest impact for you can look 2 stations across, and it's really, I think, part of that branding that people do.
so when you guys developed this standard, you did a lot of testing. Can you help us understand what is the difference to an engine when you use top tier versus when you use something other than top tier, a lower detergent? Now, not all fuels have that lower detergent level. Some have
Right.
higher detergent levels, but if you're using a lowest detergent level compared to top tier, what's the difference?
Okay, so that's a great question. So
Thank you.
it is set up as a ASTM 6201. It's a Ford 2.3 liter Ranger, and it is a automotive standard engine, not a vehicle test. And when you run the lowest additive concentration in that engine in that cycle, the EPA treat rate would actually create more deposits than base fuel. And then when you put in the top tier treat rate with the same fuel, the same engine cycle, the same additive, you'll see 50 milligrams or less on that. And that is our standard. It's a main standard for the program. Not all fuels react the same. Not all engines react the same. But within this engine test, that was what this program was developed on. And it's actually resulted in keeping the engines very clean. And the customers, you'll notice when you hit your gas, the vehicle actually goes. And so you'll see it in drivability and customer performance. And that's the point behind it. We do this only to keep the customers happy.
Makes sense. Sometimes, go ahead, Jolene.
Well, I was just going to say, in a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? You can see on the valves, we have some down in our booth, but also in the EPA or the AAA article, you'll see pictures of valves, and they're worth 1,000 words.
They are. And I think that's something that consumers, speaking for myself, my wife, my friends, not something we would initially think about. We do like the shiny object, the car itself, but we think about it when it doesn't work. So that's when it really becomes a problem, and it may be a bigger problem than could have ever been thought about. But something like this is kind of a preventative. It keeps it from happening. When something's a preventative, though, it's not as exciting to talk about. How do you educate consumers on something that maybe they don't really care about until it's a problem?
Yeah, I think, actually, I do think that consumers are getting more and more aware, and they're hearing this. And so we have a contact us page, of course, on our website, and a phone number to be able to call. And we get a whole lot of consumers writing in saying, is this top tier or is this top tier? What is it?
What is that website, Jolene, just in case our listeners?
Yeah. It is www.toptiergas.com, and there's a contact us on it. And, it's really interesting. And sometimes you have great conversations with people who ask or who call in and have questions. But we field a lot, and I do think that consumers are becoming more aware, and they have questions, and they're finding ways to get them answered.
So let's take it back to our primary audience, which are fuel retailers, convenience stores. We had a meeting years ago. Top Tier came in, several OEMs came in, met with some marketers to talk about why a marketer or retailer would want to move into the top tier space. Can you help understand? And the question that was raised was, if it's such an important criteria, why don't we all join hands, go to EPA and ask for that detergent level to be raised to top tier. Can you help us understand why it's a market-based strategy and why a retailer would say, I'm willing to invest in this?
So that's a great question, and I believe the EPA had a response at that meeting. I believe I presented, and then EPA responded and said to actually change the treat rate, they would have to do a full-on study. They have to have a cost-benefit analysis. They have to publish a draft regulation, change in regulation, and then they would have to go through any lawsuits that would be associated. It could take up to a decade or longer to do. So when we first found this information, we did try to change the regulation. And we tried to change ASTM, and we were not successful. And when we go to a new country, we always try to go the regulatory route first because it's easier. It's 100% of fuel. Mm-hmm. When we're not successful, then we take the voluntary approach because at least we have a trademark that we can send our customers to, and you recognize a trademark and you can go there. So we would prefer to take the regulatory approach, but we have to do this as a secondary approach.
And what about a marketer incentive to move into this? What do they get from offering a top tier fuel?
Well, I guess I think they get the recognition that they're supporting the OEM's requirements, if you will. So they do get that recognition. Hopefully that translates to value for them, but they definitely get the recognition that indeed we are providing the gas that is recommended and endorsed by the OEM.
Yeah, and the OEMs put it in their owner's manual. We recommend, not that a lot of people, every time I give a talk, I always say, who here reads their owner's manual in the fuel section? I usually get about 2 people. And not many people know if they have premium required, if they are required to use detergency, but we do recommend it within our owner's manuals, and our dealers are versed that if there's some fuel-related issues or some cleanliness issues, we always have our dealers recommend top tier. And so try to recognize the logo and go there. And so hopefully we're doing a lot better in getting our customers to actually go to those stations, and then they show that they're partnering with OEMs.
So recognizing they don't read the owner's manual, have you guys considered from the OEM side putting recommended top tier on the fill cap and then the gas tank door?
Mm-hmm. We definitely have.
I'm sure you have.
We definitely have.
Well, I see the stickers and the brand everywhere now. And I don't know if it's because once I met you, it becomes more visible to me. Like when you buy that car, now you see it everywhere. But I do see it a lot of places. But then I realized I don't see it everywhere. What challenges are you facing to actually have this something that's just the norm for every single station you go to?
So we are working on the recognition at stations, and it is something that one of the requirements is for the automotive OEMs, we all put it in our owner's manuals to recommend it. And the stations have to put the logos up so the customers recognize that they are actually getting top tier. So we are going through and trying to get it so it's more recognized at the various stations, and some stations make it more obvious than others.
Gotcha.
And so hopefully we see some changes in the next few years that we'll be able to recognize it more, and a lot of the customers are starting to recognize it a lot more as well. And some of our fuel marketers do a great job at advertising it and getting people to recognize what it means and why they need detergency in fuel. Right. There's some fuel marketers that do such a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Right, so top tier gasoline can help prolong the engine, keep it clean, improve performance. You've also recently launched a top-tier diesel program. Mm-hmm. Can you explain a little bit what's going on with the diesel market?
So in the diesel market, there are a lot of fuel properties that may affect the durability of an engine and the performance. And there aren't necessarily the same standards out there that we'd like to see. We have recommended practices within the Worldwide Fuel Charter of what OEMs would like to see in fuel. And then we have the ASTM standards. And not all the properties that need to be controlled for engines are within the ASTM standards. And not all of the states follow ASTM standards, and not all of those properties are enforced. The EPA only puts requirements on fuel if it directly affects air quality. So we see it with sulfur, with lead, with some of those properties. So this is where we have also worked with fuel marketers where we'd like to see a reduction in the amount of water in fuel, the stability of biodiesel, lubricity within fuel. The U.S. has one of the lowest lubricity standards of fuel for diesel out there. And all of these factors can help keep the engine running in its optimal condition and how it was designed. So the heavy duty industry is really behind working towards improving fuel quality as well. So we have heavy duty OEMs who are part of the program as well.
And there's also a marketer requirement for maintenance of tanks within the specification for top tier, correct?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
What we do is we have water detection 10 micron filters at the slow flow pumps, and at the fast flow would be 30. And the reason we have a water detection filter is that if you have water in your underground tank, it's not going to pull out the water. It's going to basically stop the flow of water, and then you would have to maintain. So if you're not maintaining your underground tank, you're going to have a hard time meeting the standard. You're going to be changing the filter quite regularly.
So this is the issue, Donovan, the Fuels Institute Diesel Fuel Quality Council is focused on this, and you guys are actively involved in that. How do you see the benefit of a collaborative effort like the Fuel Quality Council to bring people together to try to solve this? Does that have some legs? Do you think that's going to help move the needle forward to try to get some better fuel quality in the market?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I do believe that'll help. And it brings together people from all kind of segments of the value chain that face the challenges in a way to collaborate on something that affects everybody. So I think it's bringing a whole lot of positive action and understanding.
So I'm a strong believer that there's a time to compete and there's a time to collaborate. And when there's a benefit, the OEMs are really good at working together when they need to, and they need to collaborate, let's say with fuel quality or working towards certain initiatives like top tier. And the Fuel Quality Council has really helped with that, because when you get in a room full of people, and we all are fuel nerds, and we start talking about some of these fuel properties, there's so many people that have the same perspective, and you think they're going to be on the other side from what you are looking at, but they're on the same side, and we just realize that we don't have a vehicle for us all to get together and implement maybe some changes that would be good for everyone. And they don't have to be regulated, they don't have to be ASTM, but maybe there's a different way where we can all work together and get all the stakeholders together. Can't we all just get along?
I knew it was coming. I waited. There it is. But now you guys are at the 2019 NAC show, and I know you were also at the 2018 NAC show. Why did you come to this particular show? Either one of you. How about Jolynn?
Well, we have found that it is just a fabulous place to meet people, meet marketers, meet suppliers. We interact with many of the people that participate in the top tier program, as well as people that are very interested in participating in the top tier program. So this is probably our premier event to participate in every year. So we just really have found it very, very valuable. And lots of people internationally as well that are interested in top tier, and it gives them a chance to come by and chat and talk, and we get to meet you personally. So it's great.
No, everybody's here.
Yeah, everybody's
And
here.
you get to see all the new candy that's coming out too.
It's the place to be.
There's some
All right.
place
Like
to
to
be.
hear that.
Nice plug. So the way I look at the top tier program is in this era where everybody's talking about electrification, and the fuel marketers going, man, what's happening? What am I supposed to do? Internal combustion engines aren't going anywhere anytime soon. They're going to be here another several decades, maybe not new iterations in 10 years, but they're going to be in the market for another 50 years. I've always viewed it this way. If we don't make sure that the fuel being delivered into those engines is ensuring those engines perform as they're designed, they're going to have to be replaced more rapidly. And what's going to replace them will be electrified powertrains. So from a fuel marketer standpoint, they're trying to see, okay, how long is liquid fuels going to be around? Anything that improves liquid fuel's longevity because it's going to be in the market is probably a good thing.
Yeah, and also, if you haven't noticed the vehicles that are 11, 12 years old, they look brand new. As long as you don't have a dent on them, I expect the vehicle turnover to grow and continue to grow, especially as we go into vehicles being more expensive with some of the regulations that are driving increased requirements within the vehicle that may drive costs. So And I've also heard from some fuel marketers that they see a reduction in claims, vehicle claims, when they go to top tier. And we've seen that as a benefit that they didn't really expect. And so that's something that a fuel marketer also can take into account when they do, when we get, it's a business case. Are we going to get more customers? Are we going to get the benefit? Are we going to get the recognition, the differentiation, and then also the reduction in claims? And so we understand that all the fuel marketers have to understand that and do a cost-benefit analysis, whether it works for them. But we found that a lot of them have come around, and they'll come and look at it, and then they end up coming back and usually joining the program.
Very nice.
So, well, guys, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Donovan?
Well, we appreciate you both being here, and John, for you being here as well, the 2019 NACS show. And also for you listeners out there listening to Convenience Matters, we appreciate you. And if you are a retailer, if you want to know if your brands are actually part of the top tier program, go to toptiergas.com and find yourselves there. You'll find out and you get the answers. Thank you again, ladies. Appreciate it. And thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.